Welcome to Astronomy Daily. I'm excited to share today's fascinating developments from across the space and astronomy world. We've got quite a packed show covering everything from major industry shifts to cutting-edge space technology and some remarkable astronomical discoveries. Coming up, we'll explore SpaceX's significant manufacturing strategy changes in Asia, an exciting new partnership between U.S. space companies and India's rising space sector, and the final chapter in the story of the legendary Arecibo-observatory. We'll also look at a sobering reminder of the growing space debris problem, dive into an ambitious competition to design humanity's first interstellar ships, and explore why we might want to keep the Hubble Space Telescope operating alongside its newer cousin, the James Webb. It's a show that spans from the practical challenges of today's space industry to the bold visions of tomorrow's space exploration. Let's get started. In a significant move that highlights the complex interplay between geopolitics and space technology, SpaceX is actively pushing its Taiwanese suppliers to relocate their manufacturing operations outside of Taiwan. This strategic shift comes as the company seeks to minimize potential risks associated with regional tensions in East Asia. Several major suppliers have already begun this transition, with Vietnam emerging as a primary alternative manufacturing hub. Wistron Neweb Corporation, one of SpaceX's key suppliers, has established a new production facility in Vietnam's Hanam province, where they're now manufacturing Starlink routers and network equipment. The company is rapidly expanding its operations there, with plans to more than double its current workforce of 3,000 people. Another significant player, Chinpoon Industrial, has shifted its SpaceX-related manufacturing to Thailand, citing similar geopolitical considerations. Universal Microwave Technology has also invested in new manufacturing capabilities in both Thailand and Vietnam, demonstrating the broader industry movement towards Southeast Asian production bases. This relocation effort isn't just affecting a handful of companies. Taiwan's satellite component industry, which generates over $6 billion in annual output, includes approximately 50 companies producing ground equipment and sensitive components. SpaceX maintains relationships with about a dozen direct suppliers in Taiwan, who in turn rely on numerous domestic vendors. The scope of this manufacturing migration reflects SpaceX's serious commitment to supply chain diversification. Reports indicate the company is considering a $1.5 billion investment in Vietnam, though the specific details of this investment remain under discussion. These moves are part of a larger trend of Taiwanese space and technology companies expanding their manufacturing footprint across Southeast Asia as they work to ensure business continuity in an increasingly complex geopolitical landscape. The shift represents a delicate balance between maintaining access to Taiwan's advanced technological capabilities while reducing exposure to potential regional instability. It's a strategic decision that could reshape the geography of space technology manufacturing in the years to come. In an exciting development for international space collaboration, American space startup Axiom Space is exploring the possibility of using Indian rockets for their ambitious space station missions. The company, which is at the forefront of developing private space stations to eventually succeed the International Space Station, has initiated talks with both India's space agency, ISRO, and various private launch providers in the country. These discussions come at a particularly significant time, as India has recently opened its space sector to private players and established a substantial venture fund of about $119 million to support space startups. This move has already catalyzed impressive growth in India's space industry, with space companies seeing investments increase by more than 235% over the past 2 years. Pearly Pandya, Axiom's Director of International Government Business, has indicated that while contracts haven't been finalized, they're actively exploring options that could include using Indian vehicles to transport raw materials for their space station development. This potential partnership follows a spaceflight agreement signed between India and the United States in August, specifically aimed at supporting Axiom's upcoming ISS missions. India's space capabilities have grown significantly, with their small satellite launch vehicle recently completing its final developmental flight. The country now boasts 2 private companies, Skyroot and Agnikul, developing rockets capable of carrying payloads up to 300 kilograms into low Earth orbit. However, this collaboration isn't just about expanding launch options. It represents a strategic move to diversify the global space industry supply chain and foster international cooperation in space exploration. While India currently holds just 2% of the commercial space market share, partnerships like this could help expand their role in the growing commercial space sector. Such collaboration between a leading American space startup and India's emerging space sector could mark the beginning of a new era in international space partnerships, potentially paving the way for more inclusive and diverse participation in humanity's journey to the stars. Now let's revisit an old friend. After nearly 4 years of investigation, we finally have answers about what led to the tragic collapse of the iconic Arecibo-observatory in Puerto Rico. A comprehensive report has revealed that the December 2020 disaster was the result of a perfect storm of deteriorating infrastructure and natural forces. The 305-meter radio telescope, which stood proudly for over 57 years as one of humanity's premier tools for studying the cosmos, ultimately succumbed to weakened infrastructure caused by what engineers call zinc creep in its cable sockets, combined with lingering damage from Hurricane Maria in 2017. The investigation showed that when Hurricane Maria struck Puerto Rico, it subjected the telescope to the highest structural stress it had ever experienced, with winds reaching up to 118 miles per hour. While initial post-hurricane inspections suggested no significant structural compromise, hidden damage had already been done. What makes this loss particularly poignant is Arecibo's incredible legacy of scientific achievements. This was the facility that gave us our first discovery of a binary pulsar, a finding so significant it led to a Nobel Prize in physics. It spotted the first binary asteroid in the main belt, discovered the first exoplanets around a pulsar, and even sent humanity's first deliberate message to potential extraterrestrial civilizations. But there is a silver lining to this story. While we've lost an astronomical giant, the facility won't be forgotten. The National Science Foundation has announced plans to transform the site into an education center known as Arecibo C3, focusing on science, computing, and community engagement. While it may no longer scan the cosmos for signals from distant stars, it will continue to inspire future generations of scientists and astronomers. Through this transformation, Arecibo's legacy will live on, shifting from a window to the stars to a gateway for young minds to discover the wonders of science and the universe around us. Coming up next, can selfies help solve problems way out in deep space? Stick around for this fascinating story right after this. I love this story. A satellite with a problem, so it took a selfie to show the folks back home. Well, not quite. A recent incident involving a Lithuanian satellite has brought the growing problem of space debris into sharp focus. Nanoavionics, a satellite manufacturer, made an unsettling discovery when reviewing footage from their MP-42 satellite, a tiny puncture just 1/4 of an inch wide in one of its solar panels. While this particular incident didn't affect the satellite's performance, it serves as a sobering reminder of the hazards lurking in Earth's orbit. The company isn't entirely sure what caused the damage. It could have been either a micrometeoroid or a piece of human-made space debris. The uncertainty stems from the fact that the damaged area hadn't been photographed for 18 months before the discovery. To put this risk into perspective, the European Space Agency estimates there are about 130 million objects between 1 and 10 millimeters in size orbiting our planet right now. While that might sound small, these tiny fragments are traveling at such incredible speeds that they can cause significant damage. Just look at what happened to the European Space Agency's Sentinel-1A satellite in 2016, when a similar impact left a 16-inch hole in its solar panel. The problem becomes even more concerning when we consider larger debris. There are over 1 million fragments between 1 and 10 centimeters floating around up there, and about 40,000 objects larger than 10 centimeters. While we can track many of these larger pieces and help satellites avoid them, the smaller ones are essentially invisible until they strike. The most worrying aspect is that this problem is only getting worse. Every collision in space creates more debris, which in turn increases the risk of future collisions. The 2009 crash between an active Iridium satellite and a defunct Russian spacecraft serves as a stark reminder. That single incident created thousands of new debris fragments, many of which are still orbiting Earth today. As we continue to launch more satellites and spacecraft, the need for better space traffic management and debris mitigation strategies becomes increasingly urgent. This small hole in nanoavionics satellite might be just a tiny puncture, but it represents a much larger problem that the space community needs to address before it spirals out of control. I know I keep harping on about this issue, but it is serious. Here's an exciting new competition that's really pushing the boundaries of what we might achieve in space exploration. Project Hyperion is challenging teams to design what's known as a generation ship, essentially a spacecraft that could sustain human life for an incredible 250 years as it journeys to distant stars. What makes this competition particularly fascinating is that it's not just focused on the nuts and bolts of spacecraft design. Instead, it's asking some really fundamental questions about how humans could actually live and thrive during such an extended journey through space. Teams need to include architects, engineers, and social scientists, because this isn't just about building a ship. It's about creating a complete world for its inhabitants. The competition guidelines paint quite a picture of what they're looking for. The ship needs to house around 1,000 people, create Earth-like gravity through rotation, and protect its passengers from the harsh radiation of space. But perhaps even more intriguing are the human elements they're asking teams to consider. How do you design spaces that allow for both privacy and community in such a confined environment? How do you maintain mental health when you're millions of miles from Earth? What kind of social structure would work best for a community that will span multiple generations? Think about it. The people who would arrive at the destination would be the great-great-grandchildren of those who started the journey. How do you maintain a connection to Earth across that kind of time span? How do you create spaces for intimacy and family life while also ensuring the smooth operation of what is essentially a small town floating through space? These aren't just academic questions. As we push further into space exploration, these are exactly the kind of challenges we'll need to solve if we ever want to reach for the stars. Project Hyperion is really about laying the groundwork for what could be humanity's greatest journey. Finally today, a thought or two about two of our greatest astronomy assets. Many people think of the James Webb Space Telescope as Hubble's replacement, but new research suggests this view might be short-sighted. Rather than planning for Hubble's retirement, scientists are making a compelling case for keeping both telescopes operating together, as they each bring unique and complementary capabilities to our exploration of the cosmos. The Hubble Space Telescope, despite its age, continues to be an incredibly productive scientific instrument. Just last year, it contributed data to more than 1,400 scientific papers. What makes it particularly valuable is its ability to observe in ultraviolet light and visible wavelengths, something the Webb telescope simply cannot do. Webb, on the other hand, specializes in infrared observations. This capability allows it to peer through cosmic dust and see some of the most distant and ancient galaxies in our universe. When Webb captured its first images, it revealed galaxies so old that they challenged our existing models of how the universe formed. Together, these telescopes give us an unprecedented view across multiple wavelengths of light. It's like having two different cameras, one specialized for daylight photography and another for night vision. Both are valuable tools that serve different purposes, and having both gives us a more complete picture. While it's true that Hubble is aging and will eventually need to be deorbited to prevent it from becoming space debris, the telescope is still performing remarkably well. Scientists are successfully working around technical issues as they arise, and the quality of its observations remains excellent. This suggests that rather than preparing for its retirement, we should be focusing on maximizing the scientific output from both telescopes while we still can. This situation really highlights an important principle in astronomy. Different tools often complement each other rather than compete. By keeping both telescopes operational, we maintain access to a broader spectrum of cosmic light, ultimately enabling more comprehensive astronomical research and deeper understanding of our universe. Well, that's all for today's episode of Astronomy Daily. If you've enjoyed our coverage of the latest developments in space and astronomy, there are plenty of ways to stay connected and get even more great content. Head over to astronomydaily.io, where you can sign up for our free daily newsletter and never miss an important space story. While you're there, check out our constantly updating newsfeed for all the latest astronomy news. browse exclusive deals from our sponsors, and access our complete archive of past episodes. Want to join the conversation? You can find us across all major social platforms. Just search for Astro Daily Pod on Facebook, X, YouTube, Tumblr, and TikTok. We love hearing from our listeners and seeing your thoughts on the latest space developments. This has been Anna with Astronomy Daily. Thank you for listening. Keep looking up, and I'll see you tomorrow for more fascinating stories from the final frontier.